Hello? Hello? Hello?
Hello.
This is hall 2?
Yeah.
Okay.
Hall 1. Sorry, this is hall
This
1.
is Professor Park from Korea.
Sir, I have texted you the hall 2 link. Please join in that link. This is hall 1. I have
That's
texted.
hall 1. This is hall 1.
Yes, this is hall 1. I have texted you the another link in the chat.
Oh, terrible.
In the Zoom chat.
How
Have you
can I
received-
join room 2, join hall 2?
I have shared the link in chat, sir.
What?
I have emailed you.
You have emailed me. Let me see.
Hello?
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 Hello? Hello? Am I audible?
Yes, sir, you are audible.
Thank you.
Yes, sir, you are audible. So, shall we start our session now? Namaskar, a very good afternoon and good morning once again. I, Dr. Richa Sharma, Deputy Director, ICSSR, welcomes you all in first parallel session on the theme 1 of this conference. This session will be chaired by Dr. Nk Singh. To introduce in brief, I would like to inform Mr. Dr. Nk Singh is a prominent Indian economist, academician, and policy maker. He was chairman of the 15th Finance Commission, a body established under the Indian Constitution to oversee revenue sharing and other federal fiscal policy matters. Prior to the position, he presided as a chairman of the Fiscal Responsibility and Budget Management Review Committee, responsible for setting targets for the government to reduce fiscal deficits. He also served as a member of the upper house of the parliament, the Rajya Sabha, from 2008 to 2014, during which time he contributed to several prominent parliamentary standing committees, including Public Account Committee, the Committee on Foreign Affairs, and the Committee on Human Resource Development. Dr. Singh had a long and distinguished career as a member of Indian Administrative Services before his entry into Rajya Sabha and fiscal policy leadership. He served as Expenditure Secretary, responsible for overseeing the public financial management system in the central government and matters connected with the state finance. Revenue Secretary, responsible for exercising control in respect of matters related to all direct and indirect union taxes, and putting together Dream Budget, Secretary to the Prime Minister of India. He was part of the core group of advisors and strategists during India's economic reforms of 1991. He was principal interlocutor for neighboring with the World Bank and International Monetary Funds for structural adjustments, loan and balance of payment, support instrumentalities. On the academic fronts, Sir is a member of the governing board of Nalanda University and chairperson of its endowments committee. Mr. Singh has been a recurring eminent guest lecturer at prestigious academic institutions and universities like Columbia, Yale, Stanford, and London School of Economics. Indeed, it's a great pleasure to invite Dr. Nk Singh to chair this first session of the 21st SCA Conference on Science, Technology, and Public Policy in larger social and historical ethical context. Over to you, sir.
Thank you very much, Richa, and thank you very much for those warm words of welcome. Indeed, it is a privilege for me to chair this important session on the broad theme of science, technology, and social science research together for a better world. And at this 21st Science Council of the Asia Conference, which already has such a rich legacy. Now, you know, some time ago, Stephen Hawking had said that the world has changed far more in the past 100 years than at any other century in history. The reason is not political or economic, but technological. Technologies that flow directly from advances in the basic sciences. This is what Stephen Hawking had said just before he passed away. If I may add to that, the world has changed far more in the past 20 years than in any other century, looking at the far-reaching advances which have been made in the realm of technological sciences. Indeed, technology has now become a part of our living process. It affects via not only artificial intelligence, Internet of Things, the connectivity provided by 4G and 5G and beyond, fiber optical cable at every home, which interconnects the world and our daily activity in an inconceivable way earlier. It affects every aspect of our life. It affects our eating habits. It affects our way in which we transport. It affects our education curriculum. It affects our agriculture, what we grow, how we grow, and affects fundamentally our eating habits. Because you see, we need to embed aspects of social life with environmental changes, the compulsions that technology now provides, and the rapidity with which our generation is expected to adjust, adapt, become resilient to other important dominant forces. This conference undoubtedly provides a somewhat unique platform for engaging with scientists from multidisciplinary areas to discuss, deliberate this important challenge which arises in the intermeshing of science, technology, and social aspects of our life in this ever-changing world. The Science Council of Asia, which you know is an international scientific institution, seeks to provide this collaborative platform of an interdisciplinary span on this important subject of science technology in its multiple facets, its cultural dimensions, social dimensions, natural sciences, and technology. In fact, the recent advances as contained in the new pedagogy, which is contained in the NEP, our new national education policy, which India adopted very recently, realizes that artificial distinctions between social sciences and humanities and various other subjects is now a matter of history. Technology connects and binds them all together. And the Indian Council of Social Science Research, the ICSSR, established in 1969 as an autonomous body under the aegis of the Department of Higher Education, is the apex national nodal body for promoting and funding of science research and inculcation of this pedagogy. I'm therefore privileged to be chairing this important session on science, technology, and public policy in the larger social, historical, and ethical context. And this is the really binding thread, which looks at the entire span of human civilization, of history, as we have inherited, and the challenges which we confront, and the opportunities which it offers, overall global welfare, improving our life quality, and improving the life quality of our next generation. I'm privileged that I'm chairing a session on this important subject where there are domain experts, which exactly reflects not only the experiences of some countries, which they seek to depict in their domain presentations, but it binds together this broader theme, which we have mentioned, and which is bound together in the overall theme of science, technology, and social science research, seeking a better world. It is, we seek a better world for improving global welfare. We seek a better world for improving the welfare of this region. We seek a better world for the welfare of this country in improving its life quality. And looking in a multidisciplinary approach offers a unique opportunity to explore both the opportunities, the challenges, and the options. I have therefore before me 5 very important presentations. We go through the presentations. I request the domain experts to make a brief presentation of about 10 minutes or so, and thereafter, hopefully, we will have some opportunity for some interaction among ourselves and some 1 or 2 important questions which may come to us through the chat box. So with these words, may I invite Mr. Shota Yamada, a doctoral program student of the Graduate School of International Relations of the Ritsumeikan University, Kyoto in Japan, to make his presentation on a very important subject of drinking water crisis, assistance in Bangladesh, and purification and supply technologies, and local knowledge of resources. Over to you, Mr. Yamada.
Thank you very much, Dr. Singh and everyone. My name is Shota Yamada from Graduate School, Ritsumeikan University. Can I share my slide? Can you see my slide now?
Yes.
Okay,
Yes,
thank you very
please
much.
go ahead.
Okay,
Yeah,
thank you
please
very
go
much.
ahead.
So I'd like to start my presentation. So first of all, I'd like to explain the background of this research. As you know, drinking water problem is serious in the world, although it's recognized as the basic human needs or human rights. The final report of Millennium Development Goals said that half of the population of Sub-Saharan Africa and a quarter of the population in South Asia use unsafe drinking sources. And also the annual report of SDGs mentioned that approximately 4 million people faces drinking water scarcity at least once a year. And approximately 785 million people have no access to safe drinking sources. With regard to the drinking water problem, the Joint Monitoring Program, JMP, which is constituted by WHO and UNICEF, works important for evaluating the drinking water supply from the viewpoint of accessibility, availability, and safety, quality of the water. And with regard to the Bangladesh, which is the study side of this study, this country faces serious drinking problem, and especially the coastal region, the saline intrusion into drinking groundwater and surface water is very serious. And salinity is caused by cyclone, which is frequently affects in this area, and the shrimp or the crab cultivation, which is the boom industry in this region. But because of this, because of the salinity intrusion in this area, it is said that there's a concern about adverse effect on the human body due to excessive salt intake. As I mentioned, drinking water crisis is very important problem in the world, but it is not solved yet. So this study focused and revealed the reason efforts by international community have failed to effectively address the issue of universal drinking water supply by using the southwest coast of Bangladesh as a case study based on an area studies perspective. And actually this study focused on 3 points, which is the implementation status of drinking development assistance for drinking water by NGOs, villagers and aid agencies awareness of water resources, and villagers recognition of the safeness toward drinking water. And this is the methodology of this study. Actually, time is limited, so I would skip this part, but I have conducted a field survey in the southwest coastal region of Bangladesh, which is the Shamnagar Upazila Shatila district. So I'd like to move on to the results of this field survey. First of all, I'd like to show the result, which is related to the implementation status of development assistance for drinking water by NGOs. Please look at the figure 3. This figure shows the details of development assistance provided by the surveyed NGO in the study region. According to, you can understand that drinking water is the top number of the project implemented by NGOs. However, when I asked these NGOs, I found that they tend to conduct multiple projects at the same time, and drinking water projects are implemented as a part of various projects of NGOs. I mean that there is no NGO which conducts drinking water only. They conduct several projects, and drinking water is one of them. And I asked them about after maintenance of their project related to drinking water. According to my survey, I found that the reluctance of carrying out follow-up activity after installation of drinking water facility by NGOs. With regard to the maintenance, only 10% NGOs conducted these activities after they install, after installation of drinking water facilities. And with regard to drinking water quality test, only half of the NGO conducted. In other words, half of the NGO have never conducted drinking water test after the installation of the facilities. And with regard to monitoring, only 40% of NGO have never visited drinking water supply facilities after they built the facilities. And from these results, it can be said that there is the invasion of drinking water sector by non-specialized NGOs. I mean that, as I said, that drinking water is one of the very important development agenda in this world. But because of this, a lot of NGOs which have no special techniques or skill have entered in this field. And it may not, it may not take into account the expertise required to implement development assistance for drinking water. And because of this, it may cause new problems, which I will explain later. And this is the second point of this study, villagers and agencies' awareness of drinking water sources. This is the operation and maintenance of drinking water ponds and filters, which is the drinking water purification facilities installed by development agencies at the study village. And this pond and filters are the main drinking water sources of the villagers. And with regard to the usage of the drinking water pond, drinking water ponds are traditionally used for drinking water, but not only for drinking water, but also for other purposes like bathing, washing, and fish culture. And villagers do not frequently maintain these ponds. This is the traditional usage of the pond, which is used for drinking water. But the ponds and filter, as I said, which is the pond purification facilities installed by development assistance, these ponds PSFs are installed drinking water ponds, which is traditionally used by villagers for drinking water purposes. But after the installation of the PSF, the development agencies force villagers to use the pond water only for drinking. But as I said, because villagers use the ponds not only for drinking but also for the other purposes, villagers broke these rules. The only use for drinking water, and they restarted to use the pond for other purposes like bathing, washing, and fish culture. And as I said, that drinking water ponds were not well maintained by villagers, but when development agencies constructed PSF, they formed a management committee to maintain the PSF for sustainably. But these committees are usually abandoned, and actually development agencies are instructed how to maintain the PSF, how to maintain a pond, how to clean the surrounding of PSF. But villagers do not remember this instruction, and they, they don't frequently maintain PSF after the installation of this facility. That's why the PSFs are frequently abandoned in the study village. And it is because, the reason of the abandonment of the PSF is that there is a difference in the recognition of water resource ownership and usage between villagers and agencies. As I said, that ponds are maintained and owned by single household, but development agencies think that the ponds are commons. That's why they construct a commons for drinking water. That's why they construct PSF and they form a management committee. And villagers think that the pond water is used for all purposes, but like drinking water and other purposes. But development agencies think that pond water is important only for drinking water. So there's a, how can I say, the recognition gap. So the regional and local features of the target area may not be fully considered when implementing drinking water related development assistance. And this is the reason why the development assistance for drinking water is not work well. And sometimes the facilities are abandoned. And finally, I'd like to answer the question, the villagers and aid agencies awareness of drinking water. And this is the result of the simple drinking water test of the drinking water ponds and filters. I don't want to, how can I say, go into this part because it's very, time is limited, but I like to say that both pond water and pond purification facilities, PSF, have not supplied clean water to villagers. And this, the reason why the PSF, which is the drinking water facilities constructed different agencies, cannot supply clean water is that the maintenance done by villagers are not good, as I mentioned before. However, the villagers thought that Konosan filter water is safe, although it's unsafe. The reason is that villagers the reason is that there is a purification facilities, according to the villagers. I mean, that villagers think that if there is a purification facilities, they think that the water is clean, although it's not true. So the difference in villagers' drinking water safety awareness and actual water quality, and the provision of inappropriate water quality by drinking water supply facility constructed by development assistance. So this is a conclusion of this study. That there's two major findings of this study. First one is that aid agencies may enter the drinking water sector without difficulty, and non-specialized organizations may apply inappropriate problem-solving measures. And second point is that the perspective of aid recipients on water resources, which is the crucial to solving the drinking water crisis, was omitted due to the tendency of development assistance to achieve the measurable elements like accessibility, availability, and quality defined by the Joint Monitoring Program, WHO and UNICEF, by introducing technologies from the perspective of aid providers and aid providers on water resources. As I mentioned, that the water supply is evaluated by quality, I mean the safeness and accessibility and availability. But I'd like to mention in this study that the perspective of aid recipients on water resources is also important to use water supply facilities sustainably. The content of the perspective of the water aid recipients of water resources are water, that there is 2 points: water as a multifaceted resource, and public availability of water of the water. And it is important. And finally, I'd like to mention that it is important to provide development assistance that consider the local knowledge of water, such as I said, public availability of water, or the water as a multifactor resources, which are the aid recipients' perspective of the water resources. This is the reference of this study. So thank you very much for your kind attention.
Thank you.
That's all for this research. That's all.
Thank you very much, Yamada-san. It was a very interesting presentation. You have drawn some important conclusions, which we can consider towards the end. based on the Bangladesh example, of what are some of the findings of your research and the limitations of the research in a way, both from the side of the aid agencies themselves and their needs and their methodology and the understanding by the recipients. And I think that before this pilot study is replicated, these are factors which need to be kept in view. But thank you very much, Yamada-san, for your exceedingly useful presentation. I now have great pleasure in inviting Mr. Thilinakumari, Kandanamulla, Scientific Officer of the International Affairs Division of the National Science Foundation of Colombo, to make the presentation on the evidence to policy pathways in Sri Lanka in the context of COVID-19. Over to you, Kandanamulla.
Thank you very much. I think I'm audible. Right.
Right.
Okay. So let me give you a brief overview of my research on evidence to policy pathways in Sri Lanka in the context of COVID-19. And if you look at the COVID pandemic in Sri Lanka, the first patient was reported in January 2020, which was a Chinese national. And there were 3 waves identified by the government of the pandemic, and more than 600,000 confirmed cases and 16,000 plus deaths as at 7th March recently. And by the 15th of February, 78.25% of the population had obtained at least 1 dose of the COVID-19 vaccine, exceeding the WHO target, which is vaccinating at least 70% of the total population by the mid-2022. And this graph shows the infection rates and how it had changed over time. And you can see that there are 2 main peaks during May and August of 2021, and currently the rate has reduced considerably. And what do you mean by evidence-based policy formulation? According to a research by Amaratunga et al. In 2020, evidence-based policymaking calls for basing policy decisions on scientific expertise and rational analysis, so that the extent to which sources of bias like ideology, value judgments, and political expediency, which are reflected in policymaking, is minimized. Therefore, evidence-based policymaking improves policy outcomes. The objective of this study is to find out the evidence to policy pathways in the health sector of Sri Lanka. And this is the research framework. And in the health sector, I have considered 3 main factors: stages, entities and contexts, and the levels. Under the stages, 4 subsectors were considered: prevention, detection, response, and recovery. And prevention was the earliest stage where action was taken to prevent the pandemic entering into the country. It expanded for about a few months, and rapid investigations were done. And detection also was followed by thereafter. And there, the support of the intelligence services and rapid identification was done through contact tracing and isolation. And then the response stage began, where all the medical responses and all the quarantine and procedures were followed. And then at the latter part of the response phase, the vaccination process started and continues throughout the recovery phase, which is present at the moment. And if you take the entities, institutions, individuals or players, mechanisms, and the specific conditions were considered. And under levels, 3 main levels were considered: supranational, national, and the subnational. So under the methodology, this piece of research is related to the secondary data analysis. They were collected from national and international sources, such as policy documents and news articles from both local and international sources. And qualitative analysis of the content was also done to identify the key institutions, mechanisms, and the actors and their relationships. And you can see in this table the summary of the collected policy documents and the news articles. And if you go move into the results and discussion and the summary of the secondary data collected related to the stages of the pandemic, you can see that more policy documents and news articles were related to the response phase, and most of the majority was related to the public sector, if we consider the sector. And related to the stage at which they operated, implemented, majority were related to the subnational and national levels. And I must mention that the data collection period was from 2020 March to January 2022. If we, before we move to the next section, let us have a quick look at the administrative structure of Sri Lanka. Actually, now this is relevant to the subnational level. There are several layers in the subnational level, such as village level. There are 14,000 villages, divisional level, 231 divisional secretariats. District level, there are 25 districts, and there are 9 provinces in Sri Lanka, which comprises the subnational level. And in this right-hand side flow chart also, you can see their relationship. And if we look back to the data collected, the key institutes, actors, and mechanisms mentioned in the collected policy documents and articles, a majority of them were related to the subnational and national levels. And if we quickly go through the details of these collected data, at the subnational level, that is village, divisional, district, and provincial levels, mainly the government service officers, officers at each level, and health sector, like health ministry officers and public health inspectors officers, then the security police station, all were related to the health sector associations to reduce COVID pandemic in Sri Lanka, and the disaster management centers key officers. Then at the national level, apart from them, there was a key institution, which is the Presidential Task Force for COVID-19 control, and there was a National Operations Center under the direct involvement of the Army Commander. And there were 2 dedicated state ministries under the Cabinet Ministry of the Health, like to control the COVID epidemic and to supply and regulate pharmaceuticals. And there were sub-organizations under the Ministry of Health, that's sub-institutions rather, Epidemiology Unit, Health Promotion Bureau, National Hospitals, and also Disaster Management Center, as I mentioned earlier. And most importantly, there were some individual professional organizations and association of medical professionals, which provided very important scientific information and evidences to the general public and to the policymakers to come up with better conclusions to control COVID. And also NGOs such as Sarvodaya movement, which were operating at the national level as well as the grassroots levels, was much important. And at the supranational level, beyond the national level, institutions and organizations such as World Health Organization, UNICEF, and INGOs such as Red Cross, and Ministry of Foreign Affairs and the Sri Lankan missions abroad play a key role to support the health sector to control COVID and its impact. And actors were also associated with those institutions. And it should be noted that from the very top level of the government mechanism to the grassroots levels, all the officers were related as a chain in this mechanism. And as I mentioned, State Intelligence Service was pivotal at the beginning, detection stage and prevention stage to identify the infected people and to isolate contacts effectively. And even the health information system was set very strongly to face the pandemic. And at the supranational level, the diplomatic and collaborative ties of the foreign ministry with the foreign countries and the international organization supported this endeavor. And as a third component, if you look at the summary of the content analysis, frequency of some selected keywords in the collected policy documents and articles, you can see that many of these keywords were frequently used in these selected secondary literature, and these are the frequencies. And the relationship of the chosen keywords with the following themes were qualitatively analyzed to arrive in conclusive observations. So the themes are stages of the pandemic. That is, as I mentioned, prevention, detection, response, and recovery, and the levels of evidence to policy pathways, the levels at which they operate, subnational, national, and supranational, and the domain in which they are present, the government sector or the non-government sector. So the role of the mechanisms, individuals, and the conditions were considered in this analysis. As per the conclusions, strong indications to anticipate that the evidence to policy pathways to control COVID-19 pandemic in Sri Lanka have been found. First one, there are key government mechanisms in the health sector of Sri Lanka for evidence-based decision-making and policy formulation, top to bottom and bottom to top, through the Minister of Health, from subnational level to national level, and vice versa. And the next one, military forces have played a significant role in the 4 stages of the pandemic control, from grassroots to the national levels. For example, in contact tracing in the prevention stage through the involvement of national intelligence, operating quarantine centers, and conducting vaccination processes. And the third one, the roles played by the international community in sharing information, medical equipment, and most importantly, the vaccines, provision of vaccines, have contributed to a better control of the situation through effective policy formulation and implementation. For example, the support by various countries such as China, India, USA, and Russia, as well as the international organizations such as WHO through its COVAX facility in getting required quantities of vaccine was very much helpful. So this is actually an ongoing project, and apart from this secondary data analysis, there's a primary data analysis ongoing, and data collection is being done, and it is supposed that it would also add some aspects to the conclusions in the last phase. And these are some references which are much useful. And I would like to acknowledge the support by the International Government Science Advice Network, their Knowledge Associate Fellowship 2021 given to me, and the National Science Foundation of Sri Lanka, where I'm attached to, for the support to conduct this research. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, Thilinakumari. I think that it was a very enlightening presentation of the case example of Sri Lanka in a holistic approach to battle the COVID pandemic, on which studies of this kind are very useful. I move along very quickly to the 3rd, 4th, and the 5th presentation. And can I request that the presentations be strictly, we are already at 12:10. I have been told by the organizers that the session must wind up at 1 o'clock. So time is a constraint. And I would therefore really request all the presenters to make their presentation in 8 minutes or so, which will enable some time of interaction between and among the presentators. I now call upon Dr. Nan Hlaing, Professor of History of the University of Yangon in Myanmar, to make the presentation on Kadamki Nītisāra, the political thought from Sanskrit to Myanmar, a fascinating subject of what cross-cultural influences can really mean in a broader understanding of human society and taking advantage of the multiple dimensions of social sciences. So over to you, Dr. Nan. Dr. Nan? Are you there? Dr. Nan? Maybe if you are having some difficulty in logging, I will then quickly move on and come back to you. And now request Dr. Alok Kumar Verma, the Assistant Professor Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies of the Swami Vivekanand Subharti University, Meerut, to make the presentation on contribution of Indians in the field of science and technology in ancient India. Dr. Verma.
Sir, we have a recorded presentation of Dr. Alok. Sadi, can you please play the recorded presentation?
Go ahead.
One second, sir, we are playing.
Okay.
Hi, sir. Hi, Vikram, sir.
Hi.
Sir, can you repeat again the name, please?
Dr. Alok.
Dr. Alok Kumar Verma.
Yeah.
No, okay.
Problem?
Jai Hind to all. I'm Dr. Alok Verma, Assistant Professor at Samrat Ashok Subharti School of Buddhist Studies, Swami Vivekanand Subharti University, Meerut, Uttar Pradesh, India. First of all, I thank you for the organizing team who gave me the chance for this conference. This way, today I would like to talk on contribution of Indians in the field of science and technology in ancient India. In this way, since ancient times, science and technology have been the main reason for the development of the progress of human civilization. India has been contributing in the field of science and technology since ancient times. Even today, what we call traditional knowledge, it's actually based on scientific reasoning. The experimentation and observation of these scientific ideas have given rise to the belief that truth lies with its diversity and complexity in the real world. It has been the responsibility of scientists to uncover the secret behind the truth and use the available resources for the progress of humanity. One of the oldest civilizations in the world, Indian civilization, has a strong tradition of science and technology. In ancient times, India has been land of sage and rices as well as the land of scholars and scientists. I would like to quote here Albert Einstein. He said that we would a lot of ancient Indians teaching us how to count. without which most modern scientific discoveries would have been impossible. So I would like to tell you here Indians in the field of science and technology. The history of scientific discoveries and development in India dates back to the Vedic age. Aryabhatta, the famous mathematician of the Vedic era, invented zero. Geometric theories are believed to have been developed by ancient Indian scholars before were popularized by Pythagoras. The concept of square, rectangle, circles, triangles, functions and ability to express the numbers of 10 to 12th power, algebraic formulas and astrology all have their origins in the literature around the Vedic period. It is also said that some are known as early as 1500 BC. Evidences in decimal system comes from the Harappan civilization itself. This is evident from the use of weight and measures of the time. In Indian, all concepts of astronomy and metaphysics are described in the Rig Veda, an ancient Hindu text of the Vedic age. The Indus Valley civilization was one of the first civilizations in the world to build planned cities with underground drainage, civic sanitations, hydric engineering and air cooling architecture. There are some important technologies which were created by Indians in ancient India. Number one, water management. It is very important to understand how ancient Indians created by this management system. Water has been the lifeblood of most major civilizations since ancient times. Crossing many great rivers, India is no exception to this rule. Indians were developing water management techniques even before the Harappan period. Well pond, lakes, dams and canals have been constructed with advanced techniques in historical period of Indian civilization. The water has been used for storage, drinking and irrigation purpose. It is estimated that even today there are more than 1 lakh man-made pond and lakes in India. Second number, iron and steel. Iron and steel are actually considered to be main pillars of modern civilization. India has been a leader in iron and steel production since ancient times. Ancient India was a pioneer in developing the technology of producing rust-free iron. This metal from India was famous in contemporary Europe, making to pearls. The famous iron pillar in Delhi is a testimony to the technology when even today it's almost rust-free. Third, farming techniques and fertilizers. India agriculture technology is most indigenously developed. This includes soil testing, techniques, methods of crop rotation, irrigation planning, use of eco-friendly, prestigious and fertilizers methods of storage crops and etc. Number second, physics. The concept of atom can be traced back of Vedic times. The material world was divided into 5 elements, namely Prithvi, Agni, Vayu, Jal and ether or space, Akash. In ancient times, Pramanu beyond atoms was considered to be the smallest practices, which cannot be further divided. Today, nuclear power is produced by splitting it. So here, another number is medicine and surgery. Ayurveda is probably one of the oldest structured system of medical science in the world. Proper knowledge about various disease, element systems, diagnostics and treatment is the basis of Ayurveda. Many scholars like Charaka and Sustra have made invaluable contribution to the Ayurveda by increasing them in written form found in ancient manuscripts. Seeping and sieve buildings. It is very important part of the ancient Indians. Seeping has been one of the India's major export industries since ancient times, until the British abolished its formally banned it. Medieval Arab sailors bought boat from India. Even the Portuguese got their boat from India instead of buying from Europe. So I would like to here discuss about the Indians from science and technology that was very famous in ancient times. Number one, Aryabhatta. He invented the idea of zero. Aryabhatta was a 5th century mathematician, astronomer, astrologer and physicist. He was a pioneer in the field of mathematics. At the age of 23, he composed Aryabhatta, which is said to be a summary of the mathematics of his time. There are 4 volumes in this scholarly work. Second, Bodhayan. Bodhayan was the first to arrive at a number of concepts in mathematics which were later rediscovered by the Western world. He was the first to rediscover the calculation of the value of pi. As you know, pi is the useful in calculating the area and circumferences of a circle. What is known today as the Pythagorean theorem is already found in Bodhayan's Solva Sutra, written several years before the era of Pythagoras. Next, Brahmagupta. In 7th century, Brahmagupta did an important job of taking mathematics from ahead of others. In his method of multiplication, he used the place value in the much same way as used in today. He introduced negative numbers and operations on zero into mathematics. Number 2nd, Brahmacharya. Bhaskaracharya. Bhaskaracharya was the foremost humanity of the 12th century. He was born in Bijapur, Karnataka. He is famous for his book Siddhant Shiromani. It is divided into 4 sections: Lilavati, Vijankata, algebra, Goladhya, field, and Grahantiket, planetary and mathematics. Bhaskara introduced the Chakravat method or circle method to solve algebraic equations. This method was rediscovered 6th century later by European mathematicians who called it the inverse cycle. Next number, Mahaviracharya. A detailed description of mathematics is found in Jain literature. Its time was 5th century BC to 100th century BC. The Jain group knew how to solve quadratic equations. He has also described functions, algebraic equations, series, set, theory, logarithms and expositions in every interesting ways. Jain Guru Mahaviracharya in 850 AD wrote Mathematics Sara Compendium, which is the first textbook or arithmetic in the present day. And next, Kāmantakī, a theory of atom. Kāmantakī was a 6th century scientist of Vaisheshika school. He was one of the 6 systems of Indian philosophy. His original name was Alukya. He got the name Kāmantakī because his childhood he was interested in the field of practice called Kāna. He also said that Anu can have 2 states, that is state of complete rest and state of motion. He further stated that atoms of the same substance inherent with each other in a specific and synchronized manner and produce Divya Nuka. And next, Brahma-Vihara. Brahma-Vihara is a famous Indian scientist of ancient times. At that time, Gupta period was going on. Brahma-Vihara has made great contribution in the field of hydrology, geology and ecology. He was one of the first scientists to claim that termites and plants could be indicators of the presence of underground water. He gave a list of 6 animals and 30 plants which would indicate the presence of water. He gave a very important information about termites, wood destroying termites and increased, that they go very deep to the surface of water table to fetch water to keep their homes. Another, Nagarjuna. Nagarjuna is considered the leading scientist of the 10th century. The main purpose of his experiment was to convert the base element in gold, like the alchemist of Western world. Even though he died, he did not succeed in his goal. He was successful in creating an element with a letter, a luster, like gold. To this day, this teaching is used in making animation jewelry. In this treatise, Rastranakar, he has described the method of extraction of metals like gold, silver, and tin and copper. Next one is Sushruta. He invented plastic surgery. Sushruta was a pioneer in the field of surgery. He considered surgery to be the highest division of the healing arts and liable to the least confusion. He studied human autonomy with the help of deal with body. His famous book, Sushrut Sahinta, mentioned more than 1100 diseases, including 26 types of fever, 8 types of jaundice, and 20 types of urine disease. Sutra's greatest contribution has been in the field of rhinoplasty, plastic surgery, and eye surgery. Cutting of the nose and ears was a common punishment in those days. That's why he invented this. So the restoring of limbs, lots in these, was a great blessings. The Sushruta Sahinta contains a very precise step-by-step description of these actions. Surprisingly, the steps adopted by Sushrut are surprisingly similar to those of modern surgery while performing plastic surgery. Next one is Charaka. He was a physician. Charaka is considered the father of ancient medical sciences. He was the Rajvaidya in the court of Kanishka. The Chakra Sahinta is, the Charaka Sahinta is
I think that we have lost your link.
on removing the causes of the disease rather than curing the disease. Charaka
Yeah.
also knew the basic principle
Can
of
I
genetics.
request you, Mr.
Another
Verma?
I would like to tell here, yoga and
I know it's
Patanjali.
recorded.
India
but-
has been
Can I stop you by saying that we are running short of time? I'll be grateful, Dr. Verma, if you could send your contribution to us, and we will carry it. And since the time is limited, I have 2 more presentations left. And I would like to revert now, while thanking you for your outstanding research in the importance of the ancient Indian tradition in the field of science, technology in multiple facets. I'm going to request if we can have Dr. Nan of Myanmar, if he's available now. Then Dr. Nan, can I request you to make your presentation, or if you are available, Dr. Nan?
Sir, it seems she's not there.
Oh, if Dr. Nan is not there, Richa, then I am left with no option but to now move over to giving the floor to Dr. Vipina Walson, the assistant professor of the Department of Electrical and Electronics Engineering at the Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Amrita University in Amritapuri, Kollam, on this interesting subject of multidimensional holistic framework for women empowerment, a voyage from Vedic culture to modern era. Over to you, Dr. Walson.
Okay, thank you, sir. Thanks a lot for sharing this platform. Am I audible and visible?
Yes.
Okay, thank you, sir. So just a minute. Maybe I need to put it in the full view. Just a minute, sir. Yeah, thank you, sir. So, am I audible and visible?
Yes, you are both audible and visible. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Okay, so the topic of today's discussion or today's session is multivariate, multidimensional holistic framework for the women empowerment, a voyage from Vedic culture to the modern era. This is the extract which we had submitted, not going into the detail considering the time limit right now, what we have, because you had specified we try to go maximum of 8 minutes of discussion of this topic. So here, when I go for the table of contents, I'll just go through the status of women from the Vedic times to the modern era, the multivariable aspects of women empowerment, multidimensional framework for the empowering modern women, the blockchain technology, conclusion, and the acknowledgement. So, according to the Vedic teachings, we know that Vedas are knowledge. And in Vedas, women is worshipped, and in Vedic literature, all energy is referred to as Shakti, the feminine in nature. And we know that the role of the status of women has been debated over centuries in every culture, tradition, belief of every country, and they have an understanding of what is the role of women in the society. While I was young, I was also used to hear a lot of things like women are emotionally and physically. They are good as far as they are beautiful. They are used only for the domestic purpose, and they can't be equal to the men. But the scriptures, especially the Vedas, speak so high of women and respect women. Though we hear a lot of rapes, then domestic abuse, dowry, slavery, etc. in the recent current time, and current society has deteriorated in thought and understanding the real position of women. So coming to the Vedic region, Vedic part, and we can see that no other scripture in the universe or history has given, like Vedas has given so much importance to the women, like equal to as men. Especially in the Rig Veda, one of the earliest of the Veda we have, they say that women, where the woman is treated with dignity and respect, there the God prevails. So it quotes like this in Manusmriti, Yatra Naryastu Pujyante Ramande Tatra Devata, in Manusmriti 3.56. Now, when we talk about the modern era, women are not given respect as they deserve, as they were in ancient India. We all know that even though women contribute in all spheres of development in India, including education policies, media, art and culture, service sector, science and technology, so on, we know that there is a lot of violence towards them. So the constitutional provisions are alone insufficient to achieve the desired women's empowerment. So for achieving this, a multiple dimensions of women empowerment must be addressed and need development and all those aspects. And one such initiative is the Amrita Shri. That is, that covers multiple dimensions of women empowerment that has assisted women all over India in earning a life on their own. This Amrita Shri is self-reliance, employment and empowerment, was founded in 2005 by Mata Amritanandamayi Devi when undertaken by Mata Amritanandamayi Mutt. She is commonly known as, globally known as a hugging saint or Amma. She was moved by the plight of the women in unprivileged areas following the Indian Ocean tsunami. So then actually many people lacked even the basic food and the essentials during those times. And then there was also a spate of farmer suicides also in the Indian state of Maharashtra. So for her, like providing them immediate emotional support and disaster relief was not enough. So she wanted to give them an alternative source of livelihood when natural disasters disrupted their nature-based sources of livelihood. So then finally, we are proposing a blockchain-based app to completely rule out the gender factor in the recruitment process, which focuses on education, work experience, abilities, and peer feedback. So accordingly, we know that now coming to the slide 1 minute towards the Smriti and the Shruti. For all Indians, we know what are Smritis and Shrutis. So basically, Shrutis are nothing but the sacred text. sacred texts comprising the central canon of Hinduism, like Vedas, Brahmanas, Aranyakas, and Upanishads. And Smriti means that which is remembered. Basically comprises of Shadarshana, Vedangas, Tantras, Agamas, etc. And even the epics like Ramayana and Mahabharata also comes under the Vedas. So the status of women during the Vedic and post-Vedic period, we have heard a lot, especially in Rig Veda, where they are equally treated as equal, like two wings of the same bird. Now, when we move forward in the 19th century, we can see that slowly the women also starts getting an idea on their own power, the confidence and the infinite power lying within us, within each one of them. And then with the support of the male reformers like Rajaram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, and Mahatma Gandhi, were helping to improve the conditions of women, basically to overcome the blinded social practices and legal inequalities which was prevalent during that time. And now, with in the present time, the status of women in the modern era, we know that women currently contribute in all the spheres, trying to overcome all the barriers, the hindrances which is coming in front of them. So now when we come to the multivariable aspects of women empowerment, we know education, political, social, economic status, poverty, wages, labor, all these are different aspects which we can definitely look into the aspects when we think about the women empowerment. If you look into the graph, what I've just shown here, we can see that in the first two columns is basically the women, which is unpaid domestic services and unpaid caregiving services. The amount of women is, the percentage of women is much more when we see in the unpaid domestic services, when we think about the 50, up to the 15 to 55, 59 years, and also when coming for the caregiving services, it's up to 30 years of women. And when we see the male section on the other two, right two sections of graphs, we can see that they are compared very much less compared to the amount or the percentage of the women who contribute in the services. And now coming to this Amrita Shri program, where we can see, we have already mentioned, which was initiated by Sadhguru Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, our Chancellor of Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, Amrita University, as she was moved by the plight of the women in the underprivileged areas, especially during the Indian Ocean tsunami, and in the direction of the United Nations Sustainable Development development goals, like especially 1, 4, 9, and 10, we can see that we are mainly focusing in these areas. Now, when we talk about coming to these areas where in the Amrita Shri we have almost more than 5 lakh members, women participating in this Amrita Shri, beneficiaries of this Amrita Shri program, which comprises of more than 13 to 15,000 self-help groups. And then it is spread all over India, but mainly focuses in the southern part, especially in the Kerala region. In Kerala alone, we have more than 1 to 2 lakh, more than 1 lakh, I think coming close to 2 lakh by now, there are Amrita Shri beneficiaries. Now, it's basically the thought is from dependence to their self-reliance and self-sufficiency. Self-sufficiency, especially coming from the personal testimonies, we can see a lot of people beyond the caste, creed, religion, Mata Amritanandamayi Devi is supporting all those women to identify their true infinite potential lying deep within them. It's not just with the money, it is building their own confidence level, being self-resilient to all the oppositions that they face in life. So these are the few testimonies they were saying. One, Anita, basically Faustia from Kerala. Only after joining Amrita Shri, I was able to live with confidence and discover my individual identity. So then Binama is also another testimony. Lisa Suniti. Binama says that she is the charge of the cluster of 60 self-help groups. She is not highly educated, but still Amma is able to instill that faith and confidence in her and help her evolve the latent potential, that is the obstacles lying in front of her, in the family, in the society around her. And especially Amritashri, Suniti saying, Amritashri, give me a home, lend me money for the marriage of my daughter. Especially that is basically done in the cluster regions. So cluster meeting in shops, what they do is they get a cluster of 100 to 200 SRGs together. They take it as a loan, take it as a small community and use it for their welfare. Snacks also, they make it their own way where they can make it, sell it in the groceries as a wholesale market and then make it together. Rice powder, curry powder, they ground it, they get as raw things and then they try to create the powders out of it and sell in a wholesale market, which is a means for their daily life. So then this is actually the Sustainable Development Goals 1, 4, 5 and 10, no poverty, quality education, gender equality, reduce inequalities, all these are contributed. MAMUT, along with under the umbrella of embracing the world humanitarian activities, we are supplicating all these, providing and sustaining a lot of missions and programs towards maintaining and like attaining these goals 1, 4, 5 and 10. So this regarding the poverty, we know that Amritashri self-help groups, basically to overcome that, we are giving an opportunity where more than 5 lakh women is being trained and being made them overcome the poverty. Quality education, definitely Amrita Right supports education tablet for around more than 45 centers in remote rural areas in 21 states of India, where the digital issues in the area of poor internet access and inconsistent electricity is also solved. And reduce inequalities, especially the Amachi Labs, one among the Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, under the guidance of Amachi Labs, directed by Amma. The women have constructed the toilets for themselves and for the rest of the village, especially making to earn a livelihood for themselves, and the Amrita serve villages open defecation free. So Amma says that women and men are of equal values like two wings of a bird. So without the two in perfect harmony, humanity cannot progress. Now coming to the technical part where we can provide a blockchain-based app which we can use it to reduce, to avoid the gender equality when we go for the recruitment process. So this in this blockchain we call as a gender pay gap. It's an average difference in pay between men and women who work. So labor is one of the major factors we have to look into when we think about the women empowerment, other than the political, social, education factors also. So then gender disparity is so evident in various aspects of society and has been a long-standing paradigm also. So then we provide a blockchain-based decentralized application in the development stage. Also, we are proposing it. A basic layout is being developed to address the problem of prejudice in the recruitment processes, especially in the employment process. Discrimination in the gender-neutral manner can be done through an intermediary interface. So basically looking into their skills, their qualifications, their family requirement, we can try to focus without any gender bias using the blockchain. Because it is more, that is more secure, it is immutable, it cannot be. So basically this is the idea of blockchain which we have come while also looking at the skill details, percentage and overview of the country of women from the Vedic era to the modern India, parameters which provides sustainable development and improvement in the well-being of women. We have also discussed about the Amritashri, where we can see a network of self-help groups that has focused on empowering women under the guidance of Mata Amritanandamayi Devi, Chancellor Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham, by educating them to go from dependency to self-reliant, self-sufficient women. So finally, we have developed a blockchain-based decentralized hiring application to address the problem of prejudice in the recruitment process. This is a pic of more than 30,000 women gathered only in Kerala to celebrate Amritashri self-help groups, and then thanking Amma to provide us an opportunity to smile even in the midst of this COVID pandemic on every woman all over the world. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Hina, for that very fascinating presentation on emphasizing this very important aspect of our social fabric, a holistic approach for the women's empowerment, and the extraordinary work which, under the guidance of the Mata, this university is doing. My tributes and homage to her, under whose, to the Chancellor, under whose guidance and enlightenment, so many far-reaching initiatives have been taken by this university. You have touched on the important things. You have also touched upon how you are using the most contemporary
Showcase what a university does.
The most contemporary technology of blockchain technology for purposes of recruitment and enhancing various aspects of women empowerment in multiple ways. So thank you very much for your presentation. We have very limited time left, but I'm going to ask any of the three panelists whether they have any question first to ask among themselves. Can I first request to Mr. Yamada, whether Yamada-san, you have any question to ask from any of the other fellow panelists? Yamada-san.
Yes, thank you very much, Dr. Singh, and everyone for giving me this opportunity and sharing very interesting informations on your research topic. Actually, so far I haven't come up any questions because I just, how can I say, listening your presentation and now, how can I say, understanding well now. So if possible, I like to, how can I say, any other person to give any questions.
Thank you, Yamada-san. But can I ask you one question?
Okay.
Considering that you are working in this important field of drinking water in our neighboring country of Bangladesh, and you are aware of some of the important initiatives on drinking water, which we in India have undertaken in the last 2 years, do you have any suggestions to make that based on the Bangladesh experience and your findings, any comment on the program initiated by us on this daunting challenge of piped, assured drinking water in every home, which India is undertaking now? Yamada-san.
Oh, well, okay. Thank you very much for your important question. Actually, as I said, that the regional perspective is very important for drinking water supply. You know, the drinking water is essential for human beings. And with regard to the development assistance, this sector is, how can I say, not occupied, but the project is conducted by the European agencies mainly, like WHO, UNICEF, any other organizations. And the perspective is dominated by the European perspective, like accessibility, availability, quality. But the water resources is very, how can I say, the regional resource. You know, the people are using this resource for long years, traditionally use these resources. So when not only Bangladesh, not only in India, but any other countries, when the agency conduct a drinking water supply project, at that time they should, or they must, how can I say, research well about the project site, how they mean the villagers or the recipients use or see the water resource and how they use water resource. And finally, the aid agencies can make the proper or the well-accepted drinking water project, and it can be sustained for a long time and can contribute to solve the drinking water problem.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thilinakumari, would you like to ask any question to either Vipina or to Yamada-san? Or do you want to raise any comment?
Well, I was fascinated by both presentations, and especially in the last presentation by Engineer Vipina. Actually, I would like to know whether there are any initiatives taken by this program to increase the number of women in the higher academic positions, not only academic, higher positions in the academic sector, as well as other occupations of your region, of your, say, your province, maybe?
Thank you. Vipina ji, can you like to make any comment on this question? You are muted. Unmute yourself.
Okay, sir. Sorry, sir. Sorry. So what I understood was you were like, no, the voice was breaking in between. So what I could understand from your question was it applicable? Is it applicable only for the rural, or is it something which we could apply it for a highly qualified or academicians like in the women in the country? That's what your question was, ma'am.
No, her question was, and correct me if I'm not interpreting your question, Thilinakumari. Her question was that in all these efforts, what about the importance of women in higher educational institutions and in echelons? Is there any effort in that direction?
Definitely,
yes,
sir. Definitely, because ours right now, Amrita Vishwa Vidyapeetham is a university which we have 6 campuses all over the country. So we all, majority of our like the heads, the deans, especially Manisha, Dr. Manisha Virame, she is the provost, giving equal privilege to women in that aspect. And then many of the chairpersons of our universities are women, especially not only for the rural areas. And also Amma equally helps all the women, not only looking at the educational qualification, but on their skills, basically to elevate them, to face the challenges that they face in their lives. It not just by money, it is actually inculcating, Amma say that by confidence within them, believing in oneself's strength, help them to move forward. Money can satisfy only to a temporary aspect, only to a particular limit. But as far as they are not strong within themselves, like awaken their motherhood, innate motherhood within each one of us, we can't achieve anything in our life, whether spiritual or externally. So irrespective of every field.
Thank you. Can I request Richa Sharma, who is connected with this prestigious organization, ICCSSR? She wants to ask a question. Over to you, Richa.
Thank you, sir. Thanks for this opportunity to be the part of this particular session. I have some couple of comments as well as some questions. First to Mr. Dr. Alok Kumar Verma. Is he available?
No. His thing was pre-recorded, Richa, so that's why it had not been possible to engage him. And the one gentleman has not been able to come.
Yes,
so we are only the 3. So address a very brief question, Richa, because we are slightly behind time.
So the question is to Dr. Vipina with regard to her presentation on Amit Shri app. I will see it very objectively. That would like to know SWOT analysis from your end about the usage of this app and its viability.
Thank you, Vipina.
Okay, ma'am, this is a proposal where we are trying to, this is basically one of the latest development in the computer science field, and lot of advantage of blockchain over the Android app. We have like, it is a decentralized, it is unmutable, it has lot of data security. So especially when jobs come in small towns where there is a hiring process involved, when there is an HR interview. So it is not bypassed through certain people where they show a gender discrepancy based on their favoritism or based on other factors. So this can be avoided, and qualified women based on their skills, their educational qualifications, their interests can be properly selected without any gender bias. That I would like to.
Thank you. Can I link your
Sir?
You want to ask one more or something? Richa?
Yes, sir. Sir, my basic question is like in this Science Council of Asia, we need to be, while going through the work, we need to be really objective. We need to identify what are the major opportunities as well as threats while using the technology for the dissemination of information and usages by the societies. So we would be very happy if you can provide us more on the threat, what has been faced and opportunities which are there in form of like strength, weakness, opportunities and threat while using the technology in dissemination of knowledge to the social level. So if you may incorporate that in your work would be highly appreciated.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thanks, Richa, for that suggestion. I just want to hook up the presentation made by the Sri Lankan Thilinakumari with the presentation made by Vipinaji. That do you think, Vipinaji, that what you have presented in terms of the far-reaching work which this university is doing could have been of some relevance to another country like Sri Lanka in the management of their COVID strategy, or about which Thilinakumari has made an outstanding presentation. Thilinakumari ji, I have asked a question on your behalf. If you want to change that question, you're welcome.
No, I would like to hear the answer.
Okay. Vipina would like to answer that question to Thilinakumari. What advantage with all this work which you are doing could have been taken by a neighboring country like Sri Lanka in the management of their COVID strategy, on which she made such an excellent presentation?
So
go ahead.
What exactly I put in, like how it will be extended to other country? That's what you are trying to.
Yes, number one. And number two, whether it could have been extended to deal with a pandemic like the COVID.
Yes. Yes, sir. Definitely, I would be very happy to share you that. From the COVID pandemic, which was like running through, like making our life miserable for the past 2 years, we could find that a lot of people lost their jobs, suffered so much in all aspects, political, social, economic, and especially looking into the matter, our Chancellor, Amma, had actually we had given groceries and all the needed things to meet their ends day of all these women worth more than 5 crore rupees for more than 2 lakh women in Kerala for the last 3 to 6 months. We were basically fully involved and for the dissemination of all these groceries and things needed for their basic livelihood, which can support their current needs. We were disseminating for the past 6 months. If you can go through our link, I definitely share with the link where we constantly update what the activities done by MAMUT. You can see all those activities which was disseminated for more than 2 lakh women in Kerala, which is spread across 14 districts worth more than 5 crore rupees, sir. I'm very happy to share this news also with you.
Thank you very much. I think that we are somewhat running out of time. But it has been an exceedingly interesting session. It has been a very engaging session on the broader aspects of the interplay between technology and between the overall social fabric, how to use technology in a manner which improves the quality of social life, the examples of using the blockchain, the examples of what NGOs can do in Bangladesh, in Yamada-san's presentation, and the change in the orientation of the agencies themselves on the monitorable performance criteria, and of course the contribution of Thilinakumari in the way in which Sri Lanka approached this entire problem of the COVID. We also learned a great deal from the presentation, although made through a PowerPoint presentation by Dr. Alok Verma of the contribution of Indians in the ancient Indian tradition in various aspects of science, medicine, astronomy, and other disciplines, and the great contribution that ancient Indian learning had in these multiple dimensions, which were not only for the good of India, but which was for the global society as a whole. So I think that today's session brings out and only reaffirms the fact that an interdisciplinary approach, a cross-cutting approach, without the frontiers of artificial distinction between one discipline and the other, holistically, in a way, improves societal life, improves the lives of Indians, and is a contributor to global good. And I think that continued research in the use of technology and the use and the application of scientific knowledge to various aspects of societal management would be enormously beneficial, because the frontiers of technology are advancing far too rapidly than we even realize. And the subtle ways in which it is changing human life and human responses and our ability to cope up with these challenges, cope up with the risks, and to harness the opportunities and minimize the risks. So I think that this is a very interesting theme on which I'm most grateful to the 21st Science Council of the Asia Conference of giving me this opportunity to preside over this very important session. With these words, I take your permission to be able to bring this session to a close and extending my gratitude to all the panelists who have made such a rich contribution. Thank you very much. Thank you. Namaskar.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank
Indeed, we are extremely
very much,
thankful
sir.
to you for chairing the session. We are also thankful to each and every presenter for providing wonderful piece of work from their end. So before we move for the lunch, we would like to share with you that there will be a lunch break from 13 hours to 14 hours. And the next session will start sharp at 14 hours. You may kindly join the parallel sessions after the lunch break in Hall 1 and Hall 2 as per your interest. Kindly note that the poster presentations are live and you may kindly visit to have a look to the poster presentation in poster presentation halls. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Oh, ma'am, excuse me, Professor Nan Hang has joined.
Yes.
Oh, shall we take the presentation or?
Yes. I'm sorry. My missing. My internet connection is not okay. Okay. I'm now ready.
Hello, Professor Nan. I have to take, actually the session is over. So this may not be possible for have your presentation at this point of time. So let me talk to the organizers first, then we will get back to you. So you have to wait for 2 to 3 minutes for a time being. Because we were waiting for your turn and we have called your name. Any which way, I'll go and talk to the authorities in this regard.
Would you please give me your permission to present my paper?
Dr. Nan, I'm extremely
Yes.
sorry. You may please share your presentation with us. It will be duly incorporated. But as our chair is not there with us at present, it cannot be entertained for the presentation right now. Thank you very much.
Okay. Madam, please. This is lunchtime now.
Yes.
After lunchtime, can I present my paper?
I'm extremely sorry. You just share your presentation with us. It will be incorporated in a conference. but would be difficult to accommodate your presentation now in some other ongoing themes, because it is not going to match with the themes which will take place now onwards.
Okay, okay. After lunchtime, will I read my paper?
You record your paper and give it to us.
Oh, yeah.
Yes, it will be incorporated in a form of recording and will be placed accordingly.
Okay.
Okay. So you
Thank
please
you.
give your presentation in paper form and in recording form to us. It will be duly incorporated, but you may not be in position to give live presentation because you have missed your particular session where this particular, in this theme, it was had an allotment.
Thank you.
I hope you are getting my point.
So your pronunciation is not okay for me.
I repeat again. Please share your recording of presentation and your paper presentation with us. We may not be able to give you live presentation now because the session of theme 1 for which your paper was selected is already over. We may not accommodate your live presentation in any other theme because they are different theme than your theme of paper. Our apologies. Therefore, I repeat again, you are requested to submit your presentation in form of a recording as well as in paper form to us.
Thank you for your
Is this clear, sir?
explanation.
Thank you.
Jordan.